Good day, Prof. Sharizal and Dr. Idora. Today I'm going to be talking on the review and reflection of what was taught on the previous class. So firstly, what is a game? And from what we've learned in class, a game can be defined into 4 different elements, which are goals, interaction, obstacles, and rules. Under goals, you have primary and secondary goals. Primary goals can be defined as how do I win, and secondary goals can be defined as how do I advance. In terms of interaction, you have interaction with a game that involves how a player affects the game through either touching the screen, through keyboard, through talking to other players, as well as tapping or as well as pressing certain buttons. You also have obstacles in a game, which prevents a player from achieving the goals directly, whether be it through an explicit or abstract obstacle, such as enemies, moving objects, countdown timer, and number of lives that they have, so they have to avoid losing the lives. You also have rules that govern, and it's a guideline that players have to follow to avoid any cheating or mishaps or unfairness in play, such as players being able to go through walls, players able to see through walls, life counter, as well as a timer. A game has many purposes and is a multi-billion-dollar industry. It has uses for entertainment purposes, educational purposes, advert games, which are in-game advertising, productivity that can be done by officers to check on their staff performance, science to study a player's behavior, attitude towards the game and collect the data, as well as therapy to help people who have issues with mental, physical, or even emotional health issues. In a game, you have 4 different roles, which are design, arts, technology, and business. Under the design part of the game, you have the project manager that manages the whole project and divides the task equally among the people involved in the game and has to know all the areas. You have the game designer and the programmer, which documents the whole process, as well as designing and programming the game, as well as a script writer for how the game flow is. In terms of the art side of things, you have 4 different aspects to look at, which are the sound, the illustration, 3D, and animation that all are involved in the game, such as the music, the sound effects, the character, the in-game environment, the 3D modeling, the FPS, the sprite sheets, and the cutscenes. Under technology, you have the programmer. And in terms of programming, a programmer has to understand the mechanic and the rules of the game, firstly. They also have to be able to be good at math, the logic side of things, and as well as the physics to help with the movement or the jump or the gravity. They also have to be able to program with both codes as well as drag and drop blocks, and have to be able to focus on the logic instead of the programming language. And they don't have to build everything from scratch, as there are tutorials online, as well as tools that help, such as ChatGPT. In terms of business, under business part of the game, the first thing to understand is understanding the business plan of the game, the profitability and marketability value of the game, and the best monetization style, as well as understanding how to advertise and publicize the game through it being campaigns, social media, in-game advertisements, and so on and so forth. So finally, at the end of class, we were tasked with designing a flowchart of how a rock, paper, scissors game would work. So firstly, we take into consideration player's 1 choice. So if player 1 chooses paper, then we will go next to what player 2 would choose. For example, if player 2 chooses rock, then player 1 wins. But if player 2 chooses scissors instead, then player 2 wins. And if both players show paper, then it's a tie. But if player 2 does not show any choice, then the game ends in a no selection and is null and void. So in the same way, we start with player 1's choice. And if player 1 doesn't choose paper and instead chooses rock, the game flow works the same by next taking in what player 2's selection is. And goes the same for if player 1 were to choose scissors instead of paper or rock. We will then take what player 2's selection is to understand who is the winner, whether there is a tie or there is no selection made, thus making the game null and void. So that's all from me. Thank you.